Okay, I saw a post on Facebook earlier today that asked, let me see the exact wording, what is a silly or ridiculous rule that actually exists for staff at your school? Now, I happened to see this when I randomly woke up at about 2:30 in the morning, and it's now 10 a.m. as I'm recording this, and I've been reading and responding and writing some of these down almost that entire time. There's just a ton of people commenting on this. And so I've made a list of the more common ones. And I figured I'd make a little video about it because a lot of people seem to kind of enjoy hearing about the situations that other people are in, and it makes them feel better about their own situation. Now, you may have just heard a noise there. I'm going to leave the notifications on. So I've got both my computer and my phone will be making some noises. And every noise that you hear during the recording of this video is another comment on one of these threads that I'm on. There's just so many people participating in this. Before I get super into it, there's a good chance that my administration, my bosses, my co-workers will see this. So I will say that I don't have a ton of problems with the rules at my school. The problems that I have at my school, and my bosses know this, have to do with more individual cases with my classroom and my curriculum. And they know what my problems are. I feel very lucky that I can be honest and upfront with my administration and not have to kind of BS or anything like that, or pretend to be nice when I don't feel like it. So I felt pretty lucky already, but then seeing some of these comments, some of these rules that people have to deal with, makes me feel a lot better. So that's why I wanted to make this video, is to maybe let other people feel better. Also, if it's not obvious, I am a man, and a lot of the rules on here have to do with dress code and are mainly focused on women. And so for some of these, not all of them, I might chime in with my personal 2 cents. Just keep in mind, I am acknowledging that I don't personally have to deal with most of these. And with certain types of clothing, I may have an inaccurate definition in my head of what exactly that word constitutes. So if I give my 2 cents, which I don't plan on doing a lot, but if I do, I acknowledge that I may be missing something, and I don't have the experience of dealing with that that some people are complaining about these do. So before I get into the long list, and it is a long list, I pulled out kind of the top 6 that I kept saying over and over and over and over again. And the first one is having to sign in or out of the building before work. At my school, we have staff members that aren't teachers that have to clock in and out, but the teachers themselves are not required to do that. There's a lot of people, that make the point that if you're a salaried employee, you shouldn't have to clock in or out. I get into more specifics of that later, but that's the basic one. The next big one is no jeans. Now, at my school and the last school that I taught at, we're allowed to wear jeans on Fridays and kind of, t-shirts, tennis shoes, sandals, whatever to accompany that. And occasionally we have fundraisers that we are allowed to wear jeans all week. And towards the end of last year, it got very, very hot, and we were just kind of told to dress comfortably. I have no problem with no jeans in general. Like I said, we have some exceptions to that, but I think it's fine. I don't think teachers need to be wearing jeans every day. A lot of my opinions, it's going to vary based on whether you're at a grade school, a middle school, or a high school. I teach in all 3. So that's where my perspective is coming from. The next one is no leggings or yoga pants. And this is one of the ones that I've never worn those. I may have a different definition in my head of what those mean. In my opinion, I think that's a good rule. In my experience, what what I think of when I hear the terms leggings and yoga pants are things that are usually see-through, usually very tight, usually not what I would consider professional. So in my frame of mind, I don't have a problem with that rule. There are a lot of people complaining about it. So, that's something that I might be misunderstanding, or maybe I just can't speak to that as somebody that doesn't wear those types of clothes. The next one in the top 6 is no using the copier. Teachers not being allowed to use the copier. A lot of people had secretaries or aides that they had to fill out a request for, and they could deny the request. Some of them said that student aides could use the copiers, but teachers couldn't. And then there's other stuff like limits on how many copies you can use and different ways that that's enforced. But teachers need to make copies. Teachers need to be able to make copies when they need to be able to make copies, and not have to run through a whole system of giving it to this person and requesting it from this person. Just let teachers make copies. Now the next one I'm kind of curious about, not being able to use the laminator. And I've never used the laminator. I'm not even 100% sure if my school has a laminator. I know at my last school, teachers weren't allowed to use the laminator, and I worked in an office setting before, while I was in college, before I got my degree, and only the manager was allowed to use the laminator. So I've always kind of had it in my head that laminators are difficult machines to use, laminators are expensive, laminators can easily be misused and therefore malfunction. So I wasn't surprised to see this rule, but I was surprised at how many people think that it's a bad rule. So maybe we just need better training on how to use a laminator. I can certainly see from the point of view that if you know how to use a laminator, it's frustrating that you're told you're not allowed to use it. But again, I've never used one, so I don't mind rules that say I can't use it. And then the last big one is no open-toed shoes. I saw this one a ton, and there are different variations of it. No sandals or no flip-flops, but most of the time they word it as no open-toed shoes, and I don't understand what's so scary about toes. Everyone's got them. So yeah, there you go. The big 6: having to sign in or out, no jeans, no leggings or yoga pants, no using the copier, no using the laminator, and no open-toed shoes. Now the rest of these I have categorized into 7 categories. The first being actual teaching or classroom expectations. Second being the location or the building of the school. Third is equipment and resources. Fourth is dress or appearance, which is the largest category. Number 5 is food and drink. 6, social expectations. And 7, personal expectations. These are all things that have either been written down in a handbook, a teacher staff handbook, or people have been either written up for not following or have been verbally told to stop doing something or that they had to do something. The first category here is teaching and classroom rules. Number 1, no sitting during class. So teachers being expected to stand the entirety of class, not sitting down at all. No teacher desks. Related to no sitting down is they're not allowed to have a desk. Not sure where they're supposed to keep all their stuff. Teachers must have a manual in their hands at all times during teaching. And this person went on to further explain that they were expected that if they were asked where in the lesson they were, they could open the page and point to it immediately. So totally teaching exactly what's in the book and nothing else. Not sure how that works for differentiation. Teachers across grade levels must teach the exact same material every day. Same exact thing every day. This one, they said the reasoning for this was that if a kid had to move from one classroom to the other, it should be as if there was no change. The next one is kind of the opposite. No sharing lesson plans between teachers of the same grade level. So some schools say you have to teach exactly the same thing. Other schools say don't collaborate at all. Along the similar vein, classrooms in the same grade level must have the same exact posters in the same exact locations of their classes. Again, the idea is if a kid moves from one class to the other, he should know where to look. to see the poster that he wanted. Moving on. No singing, music, or art allowed in classrooms. Now, I'm a music teacher. That would be very difficult for me to follow. Students not being allowed to run on the playground. No running on the playground. It's supposed to be helping them get exercise and release energy, but they're not allowed to run. No grading in red ink because it stresses students out. Classroom doors must remain closed. Now, I believe that this is what my school enforces, and this is usually what I do, mainly for noise. And then the next one, classroom doors must remain open. So again, different conflicting rules here at different schools. No personal fans. This was posted by someone whose school does not have air conditioning, and you weren't allowed to have fans in your classroom or even personal fans on your desk. A lot of the dress code issues were also posted by people with no air conditioning in their school. My school doesn't have air conditioning. And then the last one in this category is no personal fridges, microwaves, coffee makers, etc. This is a rule that was, if not implemented at my school last year, then at least restated at my school last year. And the reasoning for it was that it's not energy efficient, which I get. I'm very fortunate that I live literally right next door to my school, so I go home on my lunch break. I use my own fridge and my own microwave. And at my last school, I lived a block away, less than a block away. So I've always gone home for lunch. So again, I don't have the same experiences as others, but I don't think people need fridges in their rooms. I kind of get that. Now, I will say that currently, the building that I'm in doesn't have a fridge or a microwave or a coffee maker in it. The teachers' lounges are all in a separate building, so I can see someone like me making a fuss about that and trying to get that rule, trying to make an exception for that. But again, I don't personally need that, so in my personal situation, I'm good with it. Next category is location or building-based expectations. The first one has to do with clocking in or out, and it's different people saying different versions of the building will be locked at a certain time, a room that you're supposed to have a staff meeting in will be locked at a certain time, or the parking lot will be chained up at a certain time. Differing amounts of time before contract time, but some of them were as early as 45 minutes before your contracted start time. So you were expected to be there early than you were legally required to be there. And if you were late, then either you couldn't park, or you might not be able to get out of the parking lot, or you couldn't get into the school building or the room that you needed to get into. I should also specify that these were not, people when they were posting these didn't specify always if it was a public school or a private school, or whether or not they had a union. So some of these really ridiculous rules, I assume, have things like that to blame, of not having a union or being a private school. But I'm going to keep moving on. Again, in regards to clocking in and out, several people said that they had to fingerprint scan or thumbprint scan on their way in and out of the building every day, which just seems ridiculous. And they said there's always lines of staff members waiting to get out. No cell phones during the build or inside the building. No using your cell phones, but not allowed to have a cell phone inside the building. One teacher posted that they were expected to vacuum their own room every night and leave the garbage outside in the hallway. Every night. I'm sorry, not every night. Every day after school. No decorations or mentions of Halloween. And then the same thing for Christmas. I'm a music teacher. I work at a school that still lets me put on a Christmas concert and sing Christmas songs every year, so I'm lucky I don't have to deal with that. And then there was a teacher that posted about having to keep a rodent log where they had to document every time that they saw a mouse, and several people replied to that with mentions of pest books. One teacher said that staff members were expected to tape dead bugs into the log to send to the exterminator or whoever, which is disgusting. One guy told me that they had snakes fall out of their ceiling. I mean, if it's raining snakes at your school, you need to go to a new school. Next category is equipment or resources. Number 1, this kind of goes back to what I said before, but no making your own copies. Ridiculous. Limits on number of copies made. Again, ridiculous. Different teachers have different needs. I'm a music teacher. I have to make copies of lyrics that I got to give to every kid to take home. I use a lot of paper. This one was very convoluted. Every teacher's staple gun had to be modified such that they had a penny adhered to the bottom, I guess, of the staple gun, so that when they stapled something into a wall or a bulletin board, there was a gap between the wall and the top of the staple. And when they stapled things in succession, they had to be a certain distance apart, and the distances between staples were actually measured by administration. No words. No hand sanitizer. Do you know how disgusting children and schools are? I have a huge thing of hand sanitizer in my class. Teachers not being allowed to bring supplies into the school in a Walmart bag because it looks unprofessional. So you have to bring it in a professional looking bag. Apparently buying school materials with your own money isn't professional enough. You also have to get a professional bag to bring it in. Limits on how much toilet paper you're allowed to use. And this specific person said that they were told 3 to 4 squares. Limits on how many paper towels you were allowed to use. And this person's specific number was 1 paper towel. No trash cans. This was from a person who said that a student set a fire in a trash can once, and so they took all the trash cans out. And the last one in this category is no donors choose. Usually the reason of that was some variation of it makes the school look poor, and in every instance of people posting that, they said that the school was poor, which is why they needed to use donors choose. But even though the school was poor, they didn't want to look poor, so they didn't allow teachers to use crowdfunding to help get more materials, which is, I think, kind of a backwards way of approaching it. Alright, next category is the big one, dress and appearance. Number 1, as I said before, no open-toed shoes. I've already talked about that. Next one, no shoes that float in water. And the principal would check at random, at their whim. If they thought your shoe floated in water, they would check it, and if it did, then you were written up. If wearing I'm starting at the feet and working my way up in this list, so we're down at shoes right now. If wearing sandals, toes must be painted. One person even put specifically, if wearing sandals, you must have a pedicure. This one's one of my favorites. No toe cleavage. Socks must be black, blue, or white. I always wear black socks, but I don't think they need to be those colors. No unusually colored nail polish. You're going to see a few times in this list very subjective terms like unusual or extreme or unnatural. So, not sure what colors are unnatural for nail polish. Maybe that meant only clear coats? I don't know. I don't know much about nail polish. Must wear dark underwear. Again, very curious as to how they enforced that rule, how they checked their staff members. A lot of people said that they had written in their staff handbook, must wear underwear. Now, I agree with that rule, but if you're teaching somewhere where that has to be specified in writing, I think there's a problem going on. But must wear dark underwear, I think, is too far. No exposed ankles. Females must wear pantyhose. And one of the people that posted this said that their administration didn't allow knee highs. And if they suspected you of wearing knee highs and not full pantyhose, they would ask you to raise your skirt to prove that they were full pantyhose. No pants with pockets. Why? Why would you do that? No capris. No shorts. No visible waistbands on pants. I guess you're supposed to have your shirt hanging low enough to cover the weight. Here we go again. No unusual haircuts. No extreme hair color. And then separately, only natural hair color. Now, this person didn't specify whether it had to be your natural hair color or just a natural hair color. No perfume or cologne. Women must wear dresses every day. This is one that I would break. No rolling up shirt sleeves for men only. We're expected to wear a dress shirt, but not roll up the sleeves. I wear a dress shirt every day unless it's a jeans day. Sometimes even if it is a jeans day. And I roll up my sleeves every day. That's how I'm comfortable. Men weren't allowed to do that at this school. Women must wear a Band-Aid over their belly button when pregnant. I got no idea where that one's coming from. Do belly buttons look different when women are... I don't stare at women's navels when they're pregnant. No visible tattoos was a very common one, and a more specific one was tattoos must be covered with a bandage if necessary. Several staff members at my school have visible tattoos. As far as I know, it's never been a problem. No denim. This is different than no jeans. No denim at all. No denim jackets. No denim purses. No denim allowed at all. No piercings. I mean, I don't have any piercings, but a lot of people do, especially women. Why? And then the last one in this category, which was, I guess, a rule of thumb at someone's school. If you are so comfortable that you don't need to change when you get home from work, you are too comfortable at work. Alright, it's all downhill from here. Next category, food and drink. No eating or drinking anything during class, even water. Again, some of these people posting specified that they are in schools with no air conditioning, not being allowed to drink water during class. Some of them said they weren't allowed to have drinks during meetings, including water. No coffee allowed at school. One person said that they weren't allowed to have Coke because the school had a partnership with Pepsi. One person posted that drinks were only allowed in mugs, nothing with a lid. And someone else posted that drinks were only allowed in cups with a lid. Only clear drinks in clear containers. I feel like that's missing something that could be inappropriate for school. No onions. No microwave popcorn. No meat on campus. This person said that the owner of the school was vegan. Not totally sure what that means. No soda on campus, and no celery. Next category is social. This first one was posted by a custodian that was told they were not to have conversations with students. Students should know the people that they see in the school. They should be able to talk to any adult in the school if they have something that they need to talk. That's stupid. No hugging students. Now this one, I can see in a way, again, kind of depends on if you're at an elementary school or a high school. Partly depends on if you're a man or a woman. I'm a man. I teach all three. I hug elementary students that come up to hug me. I don't reject hugs. I don't hug older students. But some students need to be hugged. Like, if you can't accept that, then I think you're missing part of the human experience. No being friends with other teachers. Not sure the definitions of that. Not sure how that was enforced, but that was listed. No sarcasm, which I would not follow at all. And no talking to former students. This was at the elementary level. They were told not to talk to their former students because that would make them less likely to like their new teacher. So if you had a student that moved from 4th grade to 5th grade, you weren't supposed to talk to them anymore because they were supposed to like their new 5th grade teacher. And if they talked to their old teacher, they wouldn't like them as much. And the last category, which is personal, things that affect you outside of the school day, outside of work. No long nails. Again, subjective. Must leave with a bag of work at the end of the day. Now, I do that fairly often, but I also live right next door to enforce daily that people take home work to do when they're not paid for it is wrong. No calling parents, no emailing parents, and only parent contact that was allowed or positive notes written in the student agenda. I'm sure that worked out great. No drinking alcohol, even in off hours. Now, I don't drink alcohol, so I wouldn't have a problem with that rule, but to tell people that they can't go drink on the weekend is, I think, a little too strong of a grip. No using the personal or sick days on Fridays. This was posted by someone who was written up for attending a friend's funeral on a Friday. They were told they're not allowed to use those days on Fridays. No leaving campus for lunch. Again, if it's a duty-free lunch that you're not paid for, they shouldn't be able to, again, private schools, public schools, I don't know what's going on here. I go home for lunch. And the last one, no political bumper stickers on cars. I will say I've had some experience with people having things on their cars that I thought were inappropriate, that I thought didn't belong in a school parking lot. But I also think it's a bit too far for someone to say you can't have something on your personal vehicle, especially something political, which is subjective. And that's all I got. So those are the top posted silly or ridiculous rules that actually exist for staff members. I hope some people appreciate their positions more than they did after hearing some of these. I know I certainly do, and I was already pretty happy with where I taught.